My name is Rudolf Rautenbach, and today we're having a conversation with Karlien Delport Botha. I'll ask you a question about that a bit later, Karlien. And then she's a strategic communications professional from the Communication Collective, which is an interesting concept. And we want to learn a little bit more about who she is, what she does, the world of communication, and then also if she's found her right place. Karlien, it's nice to see you again and welcome to this podcast.
Thank you, Rudolf. Thank you for inviting me. It's nice to be here.
Good. So, Karlien, we met through Marie, who's the head or the owner or the boss of the Communication Collective, and I met her at a networking event of the Pretoria Soccer Kamer. And then, we found it interesting because she's in the communications environment that we brought Chris Fenning over earlier in this year, and then wanted her to take part in that process as well, or maybe to introduce us to people who would benefit from the tour. And then she said, she's got the right person for us, and that was you. So that's how we met. And then you've been involved at the Communication Collective for just over a year, but you're obviously not just out of varsity. So tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, how you got into this game, and why you like what you're doing.
Thanks, Rudolf. Yes, I really enjoyed the sessions with Chris Fenning. He gave such practical tips and tricks, and some of the stuff I can even put to use. But I got into communications really as a young person. I had big aspirations of being a radio broadcaster. You know, these agony aunts late at night, and people need to phone in and tell me all their problems, and then I'll help them. And then I took a little bit of a sabbatical after school because I wasn't sure exactly what the steps were to follow, in becoming a radio broadcaster. I did a small course in broadcasting when I just finished school, and then I moved into a space of development. So I worked as an intern at a community foundation in the Northwest Province, and there I really was exposed to to real issues of people on the ground, working in grassroots communities, working in diverse communities, and all of that. And at that young age, I really understood what it meant for people not understanding each other. And through a long process of self development and personal knowledge and all of that, I realized, okay, well, communication really is the key here. So I enrolled for a degree at UNISA in communications, and the rest is really history. So I majored in anthropology, social anthropology, and advertising, and it helped me a lot in my career. So for the last 15 years, I have been working in circumstances where I've had to foster engagement and awareness among audiences in diverse communities. I've been working a lot in Africa growth strategies, some in the Middle East as well, and really just getting behind how people engage and how people really connect to a brand's narrative, to an organization's narrative, telling those stories. And that really is, in a nutshell, where my career has evolved in the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm struggling a little bit here to understand fully where exactly your expertise sits, purely because I'm thinking in my own head here that it sounds like marketing, telling the stories, communicating the brand and so on, but it also sounds to me like communication within the business. So what is the core of what you do here? Is it both sides of it, or is it more for the corporate to communicate with staff themselves, or so? How does that work, and how do you differentiate that?
So, Rudolf, I'm a I'm a member of the International Association of Business Communicators, and if young communicators come to me and they ask me, how do they know what to specialize in? How do they know which field? Because communication really is a very vast field, and you're right. It's everything right through from marketing communications, telling a brand story, through to strategic internal corporate communications. And if you go onto the IABC's website, you can actually do a short survey to establish where you are in a career. Now, I've recently gone through a process of certifications. Currently, there's 10 of us on the African continent that are globally certified strategic communication professionals, which means that from an organizational perspective, I do strategic advising. So anywhere where we have to build systems to relay stories, through which people can identify either with a cause or with internally with an organization to really build engagement, with a goal, with a product, and use the narrative and the storytelling to foster that kind of engagement. Yes, it is very vast, but the question you can ask yourself really is, what do I need to achieve? We always start at the end goal. And once we know what the end goal is, then we can say, okay, well, these are the communication systems that we need to build. This is the story that we need to tell. Who am I speaking to? What channels do they use, and all of that. So there's a lot of research that goes into that as well. But for an experienced communicator, you should be able to recommend as well, to say this is the best way. This is the best way that you're going to build engagement. So to answer you in a short sentence, then, is that I foster engagement with audiences, in whichever context that may be.
Interesting. Would you say that communication is a skill set? Can you be taught to communicate, or are you born with it and you just have to utilize a certain structure maybe and form your own communication style, as you will? Is it a core skill that someone can learn if they are not able to communicate properly, maybe from a young age?
Yes, there's definitely some skills that you can learn. Chris Fenning, actually, like I mentioned earlier, he's got some very good practical tips for people to really get a message across. And there's a formula that you can follow. Who is your audience? What is the channel that you use to speak to them? How frequent do you need to speak to them? And what is the information that they need to perform something? Again, we start at the end goal. If you want to have effective communication, you want it to have an effect. Something needs to happen. And knowing what that end goal is will help you to structure your message as well. So, yes, some people are born good communicators. Usually we think it's extroverts and they're out there and they do their thing. I'm not an extrovert, but there's definitely there's a natural feeling for it. And I think what I always tell young people as well is that, to really be a good communicator, you have to have empathy with people. You need to be able to get to your audience where they are. You need to be able to understand other people. You need to have insight into other people's mind frames and those kind of things in order to craft messages that they can resonate with. So having empathy is a big part of what good communicators do. But following a process and putting the right people into that process can be very effective for any kind of person.
I suppose it goes hand in hand with a bit of change management in an organization as well, where we are used to doing things in a certain way. And through such a process, the structure and the operations might change purely from a communications aspect. The way that we do things might change. And I think it goes in my mind, it goes a little bit with the change aspect where people need to be taught how to do things differently. And that message also has to be communicated to them, and they need to be taught. It's a learning experience. And like most things, you don't write the test at the end. It's a gradual learning opportunity and a process that you go through to better yourself, to improve yourself. But because of the smaller parts changing and improving themselves, hopefully the organization as a whole communicates better. And then from my experience in the past, a lot of
Yes.
people just never buy into anything. They would just not buy into this new process, and they would not read the emails. They would not give the feedback. They'll not take part. And unfortunately, you have those type of people. But the bulk of the group would want the organization to move forward and thus implement whatever's coming their way. I want to go a little bit off script there, but is there a major difference from your perspective, obviously, between PR and communications, or does it fall under the same umbrella?
It definitely falls under the same umbrella because PR is it's public relations. So it's how you engage with the public so that they can relate to you. So again, when we work in a PR field, it's a silo of the communication arena, but it's for a very specific audience and for a very specific purpose. So it's how do we as an organization, or how do I as a person relate to the public? What is it that I say? How do I build a persona? How do I convey messages so that people can get to know me or my organization? And what is the image that I want to create for myself or for my organization? And that is in a nutshell what PR is. And your channels are the media that you use, social media, radio, newspapers, television, whatever the case may be. But it is, yeah. So again, the process is the same. It's the audience and the channel and the goal that differs.
Karlien, you're a member of the IABC, and I remember we did something with Chris Fenning to train some of the members at that stage as well. So maybe tell us a bit about what the IABC does, and I want to understand why you are a member. What is the value in that? Why is it important for you? And I think, if I remember correctly, you are actually in charge of the training part of the members. So you take that responsibility to ensure that the members get decent training during the year. So yeah, explain a little bit about what they do and why you're part of it.
So yes, I'm a member of the International Association of Business Communicators, and and I currently serve on the board for the Africa chapter. So my portfolio is around professional development, which includes certification as well. So I mentioned earlier, I went through the process last year to get certified, and our certification process is it's an ISO graded uh, exam that you actually write, which then gives you credibility that your approach and your methodologies follow global best practice. So as a consultant, for me, that was very important to build my own credibility, and to say, well, with 20 years of experience, with whatever I've studied, I can also prove that from a practical perspective, my work is according to global standards. And if we think about it as well, that communicators, and I'm sure that if there are communicators that's watching this podcast, they'll agree with me that being a communicator in an organization can really be a very lonely path, because you are You are the first one that they look to when something needs to happen, but you're also the first one to be blamed when something goes wrong, because communication didn't happen. You know, um, so communication from that perspective, especially because it's such a vast field and because it touches all aspects of an organization, having a community around you where you can bounce ideas, where you can learn new things, where you can be exposed to global trends, and just having that community around you um, to support you really helps in moving yourself forward, and helps for personal development as well. So we host many webinars throughout the year. We do some in-person coffee chats as well, where we get together and we share some of the latest ideas and interesting things. There's some conferences that happen each year as well. This year, our global conference is in Chicago. We also do we do industry awards, the Quill Awards, where we recognize work that was done according to global standards. And the Communication Collective, over the last couple of years, the organization that I'm affiliated with, has won over 50 local and global Quill Awards, among others. So it really just being part of a community, being part of a global community in this space really gives you that support, as you know that you need as a communicator.
Can I ask, so to become a member there, do you need a communication type background or qualification specifically, or is it merely experience through the years, and then you go through this accreditation process?
Look, anybody can sign up as a member. There's an annual membership fee that you pay. And then you can become a member if the work that you do involves a lot of communication and a lot of engagement, change management, all those kind of things. Anybody can join. To do the certification, however, is a little bit more involved. So an SCMP, as a strategic communication management professional, you've got to prove that you have at least 11 years worth of experience. You've got to at least show some work that you've done. You need some referrals, and then there's the exam that you need to write. So it's quite a laborsome process to get certified. But to be a member of the IABC, anybody can join. Yes.
Good, that's quite interesting. I always wonder about these things because I don't think that I'm the best communicator, and you can ask my wife; she will tell you that she thinks I'm the worst communicator in the world. But that's completely out of out of the workplace now. But I think the average person on the street communicates in a way that we get taught probably from school, and it's more of an authoritative manner. Whereas when you get into a workplace, it's a lot more across the board when you need to speak to other people, and more of a motivational angle, I suppose. Whereas when we were at school, you got told to do something and you went to do it because they told you to do it. And I think the world has changed, and I suspect communication has evolved as well. And nowadays it's not just that's not good enough to just pitch up. You need to be prepared. You need to have a framework or a structure. And then I think the bigger picture for me is that it needs to fit in within the environment specifically. And I think that's where empathy comes in as well. I attended a course recently where they spoke of your brand communication, how you talk about your business and so on, and storytelling behind it. And a big portion of it was empathy, that you need to connect on a level with the client or the customer, that you would understand, and you get to understand each other better if you have that point of connection. through empathy, which I found very interesting. Never thought about it. And I think communication at that level is in its purest form, because then you're vulnerable and you're able to speak to another person at a level that connects the dots for them.
When I do leadership communication in organizations, so oftentimes we do workshops and training on how to communicate as a leader. It's the first place where we start, is how do you connect? How do you, the people that you need to manage, the people that you need to lead, the people that you need to engage, how do you connect with them? And it's only through communication. It's not necessarily also the words that you speak, right? It's in your behavior. It's the whole package that you show up as that really makes people connect with you. Yes.
So, Karlien, we met obviously through Chris, or because of that, but I met Marie from Communication Collective at a networking event. So myself and John, we started this whole podcast, but also the newsletter and other things that we do because of a networking environment where we try and get people to connect with each other, but also to build relationship. I don't think a networking event is purely a little spot on a paper, but the relationship building is such a big environment around that. So what is your take on networking within your environment? Obviously, to try and get new work in, but also to build those relationships. What is your viewpoint almost on networking as a concept?
Was it Simon Sinek that says that your network is your net worth, right? So in today's day and age, and I read something that you posted on your social media earlier this week as well, about buying a computer from somebody that you met through John, and and knowing that someone else knows this person. It really just helps to build that credibility as well, and to build trust. So for me, networking it's a non-negotiable. It has to be done. You can't sit in your little office in the Moot and expect people to know what you do and why you exist, and what you can do for them. You've got to go out and make it happen, and you can only do that through networks. And when we teach people about communication as well, it really is. It's around that as well. It's around building that connection. So whatever you put out on your social media, how will people relate to that? How are people going to connect with you? And the more you connect with people, the bigger your network grows, and the opportunities are in there. There's always someone that's going to need what you have to offer, but they need to know about you. So networking is a non-negotiable. For, I mean, as an independent consultant, it's like, definitely I can't live without doing that.
Yeah, interesting. I see these events as an opportunity to meet new people, but my network is actually not because of the events. My network becomes the people that I build a relationship with. If you take John, for instance, we met through work. We lost touch a bit, but we've kept the relationship going, and now it's at a place where I can ask him something and he'll be able to tell me, he knows someone that does this, or maybe think about this or that. And I think the people around you is your first point of call, but they also know people. So you don't need to know 100 people. You actually need to know about 10 or 20 very well. And then
Yes.
within that circle, you'll be able to get probably anything that you need, or get in touch with anyone that you need to get in touch with. And we often say it on the podcast, but you need to be a person of value. You need to provide value to the other person. You can't just pitch up
Yes.
and ask someone for something the whole time, because you're going to look like a bit of a leech and a sponger. So you need to be the first person to provide value in that relationship, and whether that is from a professional or a personal point of view or so on. And I think thinking back to the empathy thing again, if you're sitting with that real vulnerable human connection after you've connected with this person where you've actually gotten to a point where you've got the same touch points. If you get to that foundational aspect, then you can pretty much go to war with a person afterwards, and that is real value in a network. And just attending an event, people will remember your face, but probably not do any business with you ever or find you interesting if you do not communicate and build on that relationship.
Have that cup of coffee, talk about it. We never do that. We never. I mean, we've got our friends around us, and we never really talk about work unless you're in the same field. Then you might,
Yeah.
But it's but we always think, work is work. For many of us, it's our lives as well. It's part of our lifestyle. So how often do you tell your friends what it is that you actually do? Do they know what do you do? And I always ask that question as well. So you're 100% right. It's the group around you, the people that know you the best.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so last question from my side, Karlien, I want to know, and it's something that I always ask everyone that I speak to on this is, have you found your right place? I mean, are you where you feel you are destined to be? Is this only a means to an end, or do you need to go somewhere else? Yeah, having gone through all these changes, maybe in the last year as well, with the collective and so on, are you currently in your right place?
That's a loaded question, Rudolf, because I am one of those believers that life is a journey, and you don't really ever get there. It's a process of evolution and development and learning all the way. So if you ask me if I'm happy right now, then I will say yes, definitely. I do. I'm at a place in my career where I know I'm making an impact. I'm bringing transformation. There's a lot of satisfaction in the work that I do. So from that perspective, yes. But if I have to go a little bit deeper into that, I also believe that you need to flower where you planted. So wherever life takes you, you need to find your true north and your place of belonging within yourself. And from that perspective, I can also definitely say I think I know my place in the world. I know what I've come to do here. I know what I'm good at. I know why people value me, and why my life has value as well. So
Yeah, it sounds to me like the short answer is you are in the right place for the season, and that
yes,
if there is change, you will adapt to that and find that direction again. And I think that is a good way to look at life in general. We're always on course to something, but we don't know what the future is going to do. And we have these goals and aspirations and things. And if things work out differently, we pivot and we adjust and we take it head on. It's been so nice to just get to know you better and to understand what it is and what you have a passion for in life. And I think it's one of those things that we can all invest in, that we can all improve in always, because you will never be 100% perfect in communication. And I think that's it's worth the investment in ourselves and our organizations that we do work in. Yeah, thanks for taking the
yes.
time out, and we appreciate you taking this opportunity as well to talk to us at the right place. And to everyone, like the channel and subscribe to it, and then share this video of Karlien as well. And we'll see you next time on the right place. Goodbye.
Thank you, Rudolf. Bye.